I've realized that I have a handful of favorite presidents, and I think JFK is in the top 5. Top 10 for sure. Top 5. But he did this really fucking outstanding speech at the American University in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to read a little bit of the excerpt from that, if you don't mind. But this nation was not founded solely on the principle of citizens' rights. Equally important, though too often not discussed, is the citizen's responsibility. For our privileges can be no greater than our obligations. The protection of our rights can endure no longer than the performance of our responsibilities. Each can be neglected only at the peril of the other. I speak to you today, therefore, not of your rights as Americans, but of your responsibilities. They are many in number and different in nature. They do not rest with equal weight upon the shoulders of all. Equality of opportunity does not mean equality of responsibility. All Americans must be responsible citizens, but some must be more responsible than others by virtue of their public or their private position, their role in the family, their community, or their prospects for the future, or their legacy from the past. Increased responsibility goes with increased ability, for of those whom much is given, much is required. Commodore Vanderbilt recognized this responsibility, and his recognition made possible the establishment of a great institution of learning for which Commodore Vanderbilt recognized this responsibility, and his recognition made possible the establishment of a great institution of learning for which he will be long remembered after his steamboats and railroads have been forgotten. I speak in particular, therefore, of the responsibility of the educated citizen, including the students, the faculty, and the alumni of all great institutions. The creation and maintenance of Vanderbilt University, like that of all great universities, has required considerable effort and expenditure, and I cannot believe that all of this was undertaken merely to give this school's graduates an economic advantage in their life struggle. Every man set out from a university, Woodrow Wilson said. He said, every man sent out from a university should be a man of his nation as well as a man of his time. So in saying this, I want you to understand that you have responsibilities. In short, to use your talents for the benefit of society, which help develop those talents. You must decide, as Goethe put it, whether you will be the anvil or a hammer, whether you will give to the world in which you were reared and educated the broadest possible benefits of that education, of the many special obligations incumbent upon an educated citizen. I would cite three as outstanding. Your obligation to the pursuit of learning, your obligation to serve the public, and your obligation to uphold the law. If the pursuit of learning is not defended by the educated citizen, it will not be defended at all. For there will always be those who scoff at intellectuals, who cry out against research, who seek to limit our educational system. Modern cynics and skeptics see no more reason for a man landing on the moon, which we shall do, than the cynics and skeptics of half a millennia ago for the discovery of this country. They see no harm in paying those to whom they've entrusted the minds of their children a smaller wage than is paid to those whom they entrust the care of their plumbing. But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power. More so today than ever before, he knows that only an educated and informed people will be free, that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all, and that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of the mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of the day. And therefore an educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or a president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant, or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser, but he must be a participant and not a spectator. At the Olympic Games, Aristotle wrote, "It is not the finest and strongest men who are crowned, but they who enter the list, for out of these prize men are elected. So too, in life of the honorable and the good, it is they who act who rightly win prizes." So today, I urge all of you especially those who are students, to act, to enter the lists of public service, and rightly win or lose the prize, for we can have only one form of aristocracy in this country. As Jefferson wrote long ago in rejecting John Adams' suggestion of an artificial aristocracy of wealth and birth, it is, he wrote, the natural aristocracy of character and talent. And the best form of government, he added, was that which selected these men for positions of responsibility. I would hope that all educated citizens would fulfill this obligation. In politics, in government, here in Colorado, here in this state, in the Peace Corps, in the Foreign Service, in the government service, in the whole country, and in the world. In doing so, you will find the pressure greater than the pay. You may endure more public attacks than support, but you will have the unequaled satisfaction of knowing that your character and talent are contributing to the direct success of the free society. Third and finally, the educated citizen has an obligation to uphold the law. This is the obligation of every citizen in a free and peaceful society. But the educated citizen has a special responsibility by the virtue of his greater understanding. The educated citizen has a special responsibility by the virtue of his greater understanding. Solid. For whether he has studied history or current events, ethics or civics, the rules of a profession or the tools of a trade, he knows that only a respect for the law makes it possible for free men to dwell together in peace and progress. He knows that law is the adhesive force and the cement of society, creating order out of chaos and coherence in a place of anarchy. He knows that for one man to defy law or a court order he does not like is to invite others to defy those which they do not like, leading to a breakdown of all justice and all order. And he knows too that every fellow man is entitled to be regarded with decency and treated with respect and dignity. Any educated citizen who seeks to subvert the law, to subvert freedom, or to subject other human beings to acts that are less than human, degrades his heritage, ignores his learning, and betrays his obligation. Certain other societies may respect the rule of force, but here in this country we respect the rule of law. The nation, indeed, the whole world has watched recent events in the United States with an alarm and dismay. No one can deny the complexity of the problems involved in assuring to all of our citizens. No one can deny the complexity of the problems involved in ensuring to all of our citizens their full rights as Americans. But no one can gainsay the fact that the determination to secure these rights is in the highest traditions of American freedom. In these moments of tragic disorder, a special burden rests on the educated men and women of our country to reject the temptations of prejudice and violence and to reaffirm the values of freedom and to respect the values of law on which our free society depends. 90 years from now, I have no doubt that we will still be fulfilling this mission. It will still uphold learning, we will still encourage public service, and we will teach respect for law, and it will neither turn its back on proven wisdom or turn its face from a newborn challenge. It will still pass on to the youth of our land the full meaning of their rights and their responsibilities, and it will still be teaching the truth that makes us free and will keep us free. And that's it. That's the end of it. I thought it was kind of relevant. This country's faced so many hard times, since its inception, since the creation. We've got over 200 years of hard struggles, and I feel like we're in a weird spot right now for sure. Both societally, for some reason. I truly think that we forgot that, our differences aren't that different. If you've ever traveled the world, if you've ever gone to another place and people ask you where you're from, where are you from? Well, I'm an American. And they used to carry, a certain weight with it that it seemingly doesn't this day and age. But it's interesting that, when we're here, we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, hey, I'm Puerto Rican, or hey, I'm Scottish. Yeah, well, I'm from Norway. Now, you know what? My great grandma came over here from Austria. But at the end of the day, you leave this country, and that doesn't mean anything to anybody else because you're none of those things. You're an American. This is where you're from. This is where you were born, right? I'm from Colorado. I'm a Colorado boy. I'm an American. This is where my family came from. But this is who I am. And I really think that there was a huge loss of communication. We don't know how to talk to each other anymore. I certainly am, sometimes am terrible at it. And I can get along with mostly anybody, but some days, man, I came from a family that was very different than most. And, growing up, I was the little redheaded kid, and I was a fucking monster, I'm sure. But I was very sweet and very kind and very respectful. I'll try to pass those on to my kid. I think he's doing a good job. He talked about peace in this speech and the importance of it. During that time, it was the Cold War, and we were, deceptively battling it out with the Russians. I don't want to say that we won that. They lost, and we won by default. But I feel like we're headed back that way again, because there's some weird shit going on, man. This country's not what it used to be, and I think we need a hard reset. I'm hoping that we go to war with somebody. I'm gonna roll that out back. At the beginning of the speech, he talks about peace, and at that time, like, Russia was a big thing. The USSR, Soviet Russia, was like a huge concern, which sucks because when this whole thing with Ukraine kicked off, man, I was like, fuck Russia, fuck those commie fucks, but I don't know. He speaks about responsibilities, and I feel like that's a huge disconnect that I had to find, because we grew up as freedom, but I grew up in a crazy ass family. I was not taught responsibilities, to say the least. I was not taught responsibilities growing up. My dad was a crazy fucking biker. He made good money. He spent it just as fast as he earned it, and he made a lot. And he was gone a lot. He would leave me at home for weeks by myself. So I had nobody to instruct me on responsibilities. My responsibility was to make sure that I didn't starve, and I didn't burn down the house. I didn't touch his cars, or I didn't knock his motorcycle over. But I wish I would have learned. I wish he would have been a little bit more responsible. I wish he would have been more responsible in teaching me about responsibilities, because, man, I fucking struggled, and I'm still struggling with grasping the reward of it. And, like, truly, Jordan Peterson said that, the adoption, you find meaning in responsibility. You want to find the meaning of life, adopt as much responsibility as you can, right? And that was the sentence that literally changed my life. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just trying, man. I'm trying to adopt as much responsibility as I can. And, you have responsibilities and ensure to use your talents for the benefit of society, which help develop those talents. And even if they didn't, at some level, you got to decide, whether you will be an anvil or a hammer, right? What are you going to be? There's a lot of special obligations that we owe it to, the future. I owe my son to teach him the value of responsibilities, the value of peace. He got into his first school fight a couple weeks ago. They got into a shoving match, and kid swung at him. Shane cocked him in the head twice. Solid. I wasn't mad at him. I was like, peace through strength, right? That was a Reagan speech. I can tell you that strength is never a weakness. But when you match strength and responsibility with discipline, unstoppable. Seeing these dudes, seeing what they, these men from the past have accomplished this. I know that there's other guys like this out there somewhere. I don't know where they're at. I don't know why we have to choose the fucking, when you're eating fries and you eat all the good ones, and then there's like second-rate fries, or second-class fries, yeah, and then you get to the end and you're like, okay, there's probably like one good one left. Well, I feel like we got those weird greasy fries. That's all of our elected officials. This is all I get to choose from. And I feel like that's total bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Because I know some very smart and capable men. Some great, outstanding leaders. I don't know. I miss JFK. I miss dudes like that. I miss guys who wrote the Declaration of Independence. Guys that could just, clearly they were capable of reading and writing to a degree of expression that is so lost. Like, nobody talks like that anymore. I don't know anybody that talks like this anymore. Maybe in short sentences and stuff, but it's hard to find anybody that would be able to come together and talk about, peace in a manner like this, and the world would just cry out, like, yes, we agree, we want peace, we don't want to kill you. At one point the war was inevitable, and Patrick Henry in his speech said, let it come. And you fast forward to JFK, he's, war is avoidable, it's not inevitable. We understand that we keep large stockpiles of nuclear weapons, right? Like, we don't need to build war machines like that anymore if we got these things, but I don't know, there's some loss in there. Anyways, there's JFK for today. I hope you liked it.